It is already legend. Backrooms and Obsession crushed the box office in 2026, a fairy tale of kid YouTubers with low budgets generating over $500 million in box office revenue and reviving a crumbling movie industry. And yet underneath this tale is a storm that has been brewing for over 40 years. Let us uncover three forces, man, machine, and brand, that converged behind Backrooms and Obsession to create the ticket-selling frenzy and might have just put us on the cusp of an entertainment renaissance. We begin at a critical juncture. Backrooms and Obsession entered theaters in a post-pandemic movie theater bust where the powerful believed mobile screens were the future. But beneath this surface was a contrary narrative beginning with one fateful call. Future Backrooms director Kane Parsons got on a Zoom call with one of the most important figures in modern horror, James Wan. Pay attention to this name. Wan is the connecting bridge between the brand and the machine. And yet in this call, he's only puzzled because Parsons is with his father. After all, Parsons is only 16 years old. Yet Wan might be one of the only people in the world who could take Parsons seriously. After all, everyone had counted Wan out with his first movie at 26 years old. But that movie, Saw, not only became a wildly popular franchise, but became a launch point for Wan, who also produced other franchises including The Conjuring, one of the most popular in horror history. Wan was fascinated with the way that Parsons' Backrooms covered the eerie liminal space spookiness that was taking over YouTube, and Wan had been hand-selected for this call with the very important people in the brand that we will discuss. But before we do, and how Backrooms became what it was, it's important to discuss the other of Wan's connections that now come into focus, because that is where Obsession comes into the picture. Obsession is not directly connected to the man James Wan, but James Wan is connected to the machine called Blumhouse, and at the helm of Blumhouse is Jason Blum, who not only partnered with James Wan on the runaway hit Insidious and its subsequent franchise, but also eventually merged with James Wan's company, Atomic Monster. Blum was about to see in Obsession what he had not seen for decades. While Kane Parsons' Backrooms was recognized and hand-picked by the brand, Obsession creator Curry Barker had been racking up views on YouTube with his comedy channel and horror shorts, and then getting funding for Obsession after bravely pitching the idea, instead of taking funding to expand one of his shorts called The Chair. When his partner showed Blum the completed Obsession to get funding for Barker's next film, Blum saw in Obsession more than a chance to fund Barker's next film. His practiced eye recognized gold, just as it had in Paranormal Activity, and more recently with Five Nights at Freddy's. Blum knew Obsession was special. He not only granted financing for Barker's next film, he personally backed Barker on Obsession, helping get it sold to Focus Pictures, but more importantly, Blum put his machine, Blumhouse, behind the movie. A combination of a fiery, scrappy young director and a 2 decades old machine was about to set ablaze the box office and reveal the potential entertainment renaissance, why it could just be happening. But not before Backrooms was about to emerge with one of the most powerful brands in history behind it, A24. The machine was moving behind Barker after Obsession was made. A24 was the cultivator of Kane Parsons' potential, and as Blum was pushing Parker, A24, founded in 2012 by 3 industry veterans, was the kind of place that could lift a young visionary like Kane Parsons, and maybe the only one with the ability to do so. A24 had been nominated for scores of Academy Awards, which included Best Pictures, but they had also founded some of the greatest auteurs with prestige pieces in the 20th century, including Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, and Ty West, and just recently having taken a massive cash infusion was to become valued at over $3 billion. The industry veterans who surrounded Parsons and Backrooms were clear. Parsons was the visionary leading the movie who had even built pre-visuals in the software Blender, but it was also true They had the wherewithal to allow a young 16-year-old Parsons to have a massive box office success 4 years later and become the highest-grossing film for A24, which currently is the headline, but perhaps is missing something just as important here. The underlying reason the entertainment industry is ripe for a renaissance. With Obsession and Backrooms, it's true. Indeed, massively talented young YouTubers took the front stage, but the interesting model here is the generous recognition and crossing of the guard that is happening no one is seeing. Horror and teen movies are traditionally where new talent is found, including John Hughes, George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg. But baby boomers had dominated the box office for decades, their properties and leadership lying long shadows across the movie industry. And these corporate icons were now slower, and their formulas fading, just as the ones that had preceded them right before they broke through. And yet their identities are coming back to life, just in a new way. Bloom's Paranormal Activity was championed by Steven Spielberg, and Wan had cited for Saw those horror films that had come before him from the baby boomers. But Gen X was now rising to take executive leadership positions, and now a new crossing of the guard could just be taking place, which helps complete our answer as to why Backrooms and Obsession were successful and were actually the likely outcome. A generation known for being passed over, Gen X remains creative and is perhaps moving to its height. It remembers reading comic books, watching television, and going to theaters for franchises, but it also recognizes the internet, social media, and new trends. And having gone through the internet boom can relate to a sea change like AI, understanding that it can be disruptive and disturbing for rising generations, but can also unlock enormous potential for them. In this case, Backrooms and Obsession stand as a case study in a way that Gen X can enable Gen Z and beyond, utilizing their experience and recognizing fascinatingly new approaches to entertainment and helping refine and craft their works instead of replacing them. Backrooms and Obsession showed how new tools in the hands of new minds surrounded by mature perspectives can bring cross-generational jobs, cross-generational wealth, and newness. And just as important, Gen X can pass the baton, but it can still create as well. In horror, Bloom and Wan are rolling out a new Insidious movie in 2026, and A24 has many title releases on the way. And yet, there is enough wherewithal within this leadership to lend a new hand to new generations, which could perhaps even lead to forgotten genres and new patterns never seen before in entertainment. If only men, machine, and brands can take a nod from these three and understand that time is marching on, a new day is before us, and a new talent is rising which does not have to diminish the old, but instead can merely rise alongside it. This is Muro.